Nothing brings people together like honesty and mutual trust. If people spoke only the truth, then 80 or 90% of all problems would just disappear. William Schultz, psychologist. Every young couple that enters marriage dreams of a relationship built on trust. However, statistics show that in the majority of marriages, over time, either one or both partners lose trust in the other. If I had found out that this person was cheating on me, then maybe I would have killed them, or at least hurt them very badly. Trust is one of the pillars of a strong marriage. The absence of trust in a family often puts a heavy burden on the marriage and can lead to fatal consequences. Why do couples stop being honest? How can lost trust be regained? What is necessary for the existence of an open relationship? Studio The Truth About, with the support of the international charity fund Youth with a Mission, presents Let's Talk About Family. Trust. Today, children are often raised with the idea, don't trust anyone. This kind of upbringing results in distrust as a foundational part of many people's worldview in the future. With the help of a survey conducted as part of the project Worthy Ukraine, it was found that 85% of Ukraine's citizens don't trust the court system due to its corruption. According to information provided by the TV channel 1+1, 4 out of 5 people do not trust doctors and domestic medicine. According to other studies, about half of consumers do not believe in the authenticity of the ingredients that are shown on the labels by the manufacturers of various goods. 1 out of every 2 Ukrainians do not trust the president, nor the Supreme Council of Ukraine, nor the cabinet of ministers. In almost every family, at least one partner does not trust their other half. What's the reason for such widespread doubt in people towards each other and toward the government? Of course, this does not only have to do with our inability to trust, but also in the fact that many people really are not worthy of trust due to their dishonesty. Trust. Today, I often hear people say, what, am I stupid? Or what, am I naive? Or what, am I a child? Today, people are afraid to trust, to sacrifice, because at some point there has already been a wound. However, it was not always like this, and not everywhere. In previous centuries, in many countries of the world, to win the trust of the people was one of the greatest virtues. The best example of this was in knighthood. Knighthood, as a brotherhood and as a military class, emerged from Western Europe in the 8th century. At first, a person could only be granted knighthood by the king as a reward for government service, but later it also became a title transferred by inheritance to the aristocracy. Every knight was required to reverently serve the king in worldly matters, and also protect the church and clergy from robbers. In addition, knights were required to avoid bad surroundings and dishonest earnings, to save the innocent, to go to a duel, to be fearless, loyal, and live blameless before God and men. A knight was considered a fundamentally moral and exceptionally good person. He feared to commit any act which could contradict his integrity or might raise questions about his reputation or stain his conscience. Recognition and universal respect were the main priorities of the knight. It was better for him to die than to lose the trust of the people due to an indecent act. It never crossed Angela's mind that Alexander, with whom she became friends, in time would become her knight, and she his sweetheart. He was not the kind of prince girls dream about. However, one feature of Alexander she was very attracted to was that Angela could trust him.
Back then, I never even thought that we could have something together. I didn't even really like him. Then one day, I heard that he was being drafted into the army. And when I heard that, that's when something started to stir in me. I somehow became sorry, mixed up inside.
Alexander and Angela met at a club. At first, they were just friends, going to local clubs together. Yet after less than a year of friendship, as young people realize, they could not imagine their lives without each other.
He started visiting me at work. He'd pick me up from work to go for a walk. Little by little, I started to fall in love.
I was more interested in this person than in anyone else. I liked the way she behaved herself more and more every day. The hardest thing of all was to imagine myself without her. When we were together, it was great. When we weren't, it was like something was missing. Trust is an attitude that arises from faith in someone's innocence, honesty, and sincerity. Academic Dictionary of the Ukrainian Language.
The trust of a child forms while they are still inside their mother's womb. When they hear the voice of their parents, they know that they are welcome. After a child is born, it is from experience that they start to understand who they can trust and who they can't.
A child should always know that no matter what they've done, they can go to their father or mother and talk to them about it, whether it's good or bad, even if they broke their mother's favorite vase. A child should understand that they might suffer some sort of consequence, because that is the process of upbringing. But they will never be rejected as an individual. Trust in marriage can be more difficult. Here, whether I want it or not, actions are needed and not just words. And this is more difficult because we already carry some previous wounds or different expectations. How can we avoid these misunderstandings? There is the rule of the 3 C's. Communicate, communicate, communicate. The first years of living together completely satisfied the young people. Overall, life for them was not easy. They did not have their own place to live, so they lived in a rented apartment, and sometimes they even had to live apart. However, Angela and Oleksandr were not in a hurry to get married. The couple didn't understand why they needed the marriage certificate if everything was already good as it was. There were no conversations about a wedding. People say, you need to make it official. I thought it was just not necessary. Why bother with those expenses, those wastes of money? You're living and you feel good, so continue living. Whatever. I'll just do the same as everyone else. I justified the way I thought. I don't know if she really liked it or not, but she submitted to my way of looking at life. The wedding was not even mentioned. Concerning cohabitation in our day and age, men and women often understand it as living together without any mutual obligation or a marriage certificate. However, if marriage is not registered with the government, these loose family relations in Slavic nations are actually called a civil marriage. According to the New York Institute of Marriage and Family, today these types of relationships exist in 40% of Swedish couples, 15 to 20% of American couples, and close to 15% of Russian couples. In Ukraine, these without obligation relationships are 1 in every 10 couples. Psychologists' opinion about the reason for the popularity of these civil marriages are radically different. Some think the reason for the growth in the quantity of these marriages is due to more freedom for women. Others say that it is to the man's best interest. Statistics show that men are more supportive of cohabitation. According to the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, 69% of men do not see anything wrong in a joint life without obligations. Among women, these relationships are supported by 55% of those surveyed. Almost all women who cohabit, when asked, "Are you married?" answer yes, but only 2 out of 3 men gave the same answer. Angela, like every woman, desired to hear from her beloved compliments and recognition of love. Although, when asked, "Do you love me?" Alexander, for some reason, did not rush to affirm her, but only dryly answered, "Probably." Coming up, will Alexander and Angela be together? What destroys trust? What does persistent doubt in your partner lead to? Angela's pregnancy came at the time when Alexander was almost always going abroad. His first feelings, unsupported by the vow to be together in joy and in sorrow, quickly passed, and he soon lost interest in Angela. Returning from his travels, the young man typically rested in his entertainment establishments, casinos, and billiard clubs, spent a lot of time with friends, and pretty much did everything he could so that he didn't have to sit at home. He considered himself free and didn't feel responsible for anything. Alexander lived the way he wanted. I was a child of darkness. At nights I played somewhere in a billiard club. I went somewhere in Poland. Basically, my way of life was a crime.
I just hoped and trusted that since I was pregnant, that was it. He was already mine. Though when I told him, he was kind of indifferent, not ready for it, not really against it. When my grandma and grandpa found out, they kept pushing me until the very end to get an abortion. No matter what they said, even if he wouldn't marry me, I would never get an abortion. I really wanted this child.
There was some kind of understanding that I was going to be a father, but it wasn't really part of my plans. When talking about cohabitation, there is no room for making mistakes when something happens that is not according to the plans. Little things can be forgiven or changed, but when something deeper happens, whether it is an unplanned pregnancy or the loss of a job, or something else, maybe an injury, in reality, those things can become the breaking moments and very often end in divorce or destroy the relationship.
In reality, marriage is sanctified by God, and God gives a guarantee that He will help overcome all troubles that come between spouses. Simply put, couples who get married have the help of God, but people who cohabit don't. They are actually just relying on themselves.
A marriage certificate itself is just a formality. It is at best a symbol, maybe an invisible sign of this invisible connection between us. To stand next to this person and before all testify that I will only be with her requires a form. The birth of the child basically did not change the rhythm of Alexander's life. He continued to go abroad and have fun. But a different problem came up. Due to Alexander's frequent absence from home, he started to imagine that Angela was cheating on him. I questioned her, tormented her all night. Why? What were you looking at back there? Who came? I asked my friends to look around, call around, to invite her while I was gone. I was checking her, and if there was something from her side that was even just a little strange, if there was anything that gave a reason to have even a little bit of doubt, it would very easily put me in a terrible mood, furious. I used physical strength. If I would have found out that this person was cheating on me, then maybe I would kill them, or at least hurt them very badly. In today's world, it is very easy to destroy trust, and the first reason it's destroyed is jealousy. Jealousy appears predominantly in the marriages which are not capable of sincere, open conversations about their worries and desires. Jealousy destroys even families with strong relationships and often leads to divorce. Another big reason through which many lose trust is dishonesty or a violation of vows of the partner. Most often, trust can be lost from infidelity as well as the result of moral weakness, which manifests itself in the unwillingness of a husband or wife to solve existing problems. Many people think that because they're doing something bad, that means their partner must be doing the same thing. There was one incident. I went to Poland and something with the border wasn't right. It was closed. So I went back home, but she wasn't there.
I went out with my friends to a club, and he came to look for me, and there he was, and...
It was a terrible scene because I was going to show her that I was not going to be humiliated. When I leave, you must be at home. I didn't accept her assurance that I just wanted to be with my friends. You promised me that when I'm not there, you're going to sit at home.
If a husband is irritated by something in the behavior of his wife, or he thinks that she should talk to other men in a different way, then that is something that definitely needs to be discussed.
For example, a woman is sitting at home and the husband came home late. Don't ask, "Where did you wander off to?" But tell the truth about your feelings. Don't say, "You're a so-and-so," but say, "Everything is boiling up inside of me. Please explain what happened because I was worried." Worrying, not knowing what was happening with you because when I called you, you didn't pick up the phone, and I already started to imagine different nonsense. Verbalize, listen, and accept. The widespread trap of relationships, under the name civil marriage, caught Angela and Alexander with its sharp teeth. A mutual relationship without commitment, trust, and promises to love one another were completely collapsing. Year after year, Angela waited and trusted in a change for the better, though that didn't lead to anything. Raising a child almost independently, agitated, distrust and constant control simply drained her. She didn't want this kind of family. But the troubles didn't end there. Suddenly, to all of the problems, another one was added. The doctors gave Alexander a serious diagnosis: hepatitis C. In my heart, there was this growing fear, and at the same time an understanding that you're facing something that you have no influence over. Every time I went to the hospital, I got worse and worse. My liver was giving up, and I was feeling crushed. I was closed off. I called myself a knight of sorrowful countenance. Realizing the seriousness of the disease, Alexander became very depressed. Angela stored up so many offenses against her husband that she was even happy for her husband's illness.
I remember I came to him and said, "There is a God in heaven. Maybe he finally put you in your place."
However, Alexander, not being serious about his difficult illness, did not change for the better. In the place of starting to trust Angela and showing care for the baby, he just became unbearable. He turned in on himself and was constantly irritated. Coming up, how do you overcome unreasonable jealousy? What's needed in order to stop doubt in partners? Is it possible for Angela to regain lost trust? For months, Alexander had to be under the close supervision of doctors and his wife. He was getting worse, and his negative behavior did not change. He even took a psychological test, which confirmed the results that Alexander was totally selfish. Realizing that the majority of problems lie in himself, Alexander started to search for advice in a spiritual area. He became interested in occult literature, which allegedly offered a solution to all troubles. This kind of sadness started to come to me, this kind of disappointment in life. I started to look for something more spiritual. In that time, there was this one bestseller by Carlos Castaneda that I bought, which supposedly taught me how to do this, to put yourself together. I started to read it, I started to look into it. I read and I practiced. Some things even worked, but not the things I wanted. But to recover, to pull myself completely together, was something I couldn't do. There was this one just terrible night. There was a strong hurricane and wind. Something started to happen inside me so that I understood. This is possibly the last minute of my life. And I understood, I somehow deeply understood, that none of this can save me. We're the kind of people that when things are bad for us, we finally realize we don't want Castaneda or philosophy. We just call on God. And I said, "Lord, have mercy on me. Help me." And I understood why I had all of this. I said, "Lord, I'm leaving this terrible life." Evening came the next day, and I laid down to sleep, and I had peace. I understood deeply in my heart why I didn't really feel as I had before. And I knew that that night, my conversation with God, the consequence of my cry to God, were now His forgiveness. Making the decision to live new with God, Alexander was sure he wouldn't retreat. There was no road going back. He didn't know how to live further, how to live without a criminal's income. But he understood. Now everything is going to be different. Alexander burned his occult literature and started to visit an Orthodox church. Old friends started coming to me. "Let's go there. Let us keep this at your place." I said, "Guys, I'm not going to live like that anymore." Then my liver started to recover. At first, it stopped regressing. Then it went up, 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 and my life really started to change. However, changes in the family's life happened very slowly. The behavior of the young man improved. He stopped being jealous and trying to control Angela, but his desire that everything would become different right away only added tension to their relationship. Alexander sought to teach his wife Christian principles of life, but she didn't take his words seriously.
To restore trust after it's lost basically means to learn how to trust anew. It's real and it's possible. It just needs effort.
Before, for me to go somewhere with Angela, to actually walk somewhere with her, well, that was very rare. With kids, I don't even remember. I started to go for walks with my kids, play with them some sort of games. I started to become a normal person that she still didn't know about. I tried to convince Angela with the life I had. In reality, repentance is not just recognizing your mistakes. It is a very deep inner regret which brings you to the decision to change your life. A. Recognize mistakes. B. Ask to be forgiven. C. Change your life. Several years passed, and little by little, not only through words but through actions, Angela saw how much God influenced Oleksandr's life and changed him. He became totally different, stopped being jealous of Angela's every step. He very rarely left the house for long. He started to care for her and the children. She marveled at these changes and realized that Oleksandr could not have changed this way on his own.
I saw a change. He became more peaceful. He started helping with things. Sometimes he would wash dishes. He started acting differently toward the children. His relationship toward me became completely different. When he started to change, when he started to show something inside himself that wasn't there before, I was convinced that Oleksandr could really love. Then I started to somehow reflect. I started to trust.
To trust, it means something not to control. To trust, it means something not understanding to the end, but believing that the other person will not hurt you, but do everything for your good.
The best teacher of forgiveness is Jesus Christ. He forgave his enemies. He forgave people who wanted to do him harm. And dying, he said, "Forgive them. They know not what they do."
When Oleksandr and Angela trusted their lives to God, their families started to change. They were able to better understand each other and to do everything to please each other. Together with the changes in Angela and Oleksandr's lives, the young people also experienced changes in their view of family. They started thinking about who they were to each other. Friends? Two people that live under one roof? Or husband and wife? As it turned out, the biblical model of marriage was very different from the way which they lived. Oleksandr and Angela thought perhaps this is why there was so much suspicion, hatred, difficulties, and crisis in their relationship. With complete readiness, the young people committed themselves before God, promised each other to be faithful and loving in joy and in sorrow, in happiness and in trouble, in sickness and in health, for all the days of their lives, till death do them part. When I fought with Angela so she would know that I was very jealous and that she couldn't mess with me, I really just wanted to scare her so that she would be afraid to even think something was wrong. I thought that fear would lead her and everything would be well. But later I understood the husband is not always home. When I am there, there is fear. When I'm not, there is no fear. When a person has only the fear of God, only then can they have peace.
If I would have had some other husband not like Oleksandr, then I probably would not have had so many children. That's because he helps, he cooks meals, he takes care of them. If I want to go somewhere, then he lets me.
Today, after surviving hardships, in the Horod family, trust and love reign. The evidence of that is 8 children who fill the home with happiness and joy. Before, Angela and Oleksandr lived in an atmosphere of continual, mutual distrust. But today, their union is so strong that they understand each other at a glance. However, many people in our time single-handedly destroy trust in their relationships through jealousy, dishonesty, certain secrets, and treason, which lead to a loss of closeness, alienation, and conflicts. After these things, it's very difficult to restore normal communication in a family. It requires much strength and time. The best way to protect a marriage is to start trusting God like Oleksandr and Angela's family did. God is the creator of marriage. He desires that every couple would have a mutual relationship built on honesty and openness. That's why the Lord is ready to help any family if partners will trust themselves to Him.